The hall was ancient, carved into the stone of a dead moon, its architecture older than most civilizations still breathing. Banners of 100 species fluttered from the ceiling, a display of fragile unity. This was the heart of galactic diplomacy, where empires argued and treaties were carved in cautious language. Earth's delegation walked in last. They were not late, they were deliberately timed. The envoy, dressed in simple formal wear, stood unarmed, his steps steady despite the sea of predatory stares around him. 2 aides flanked him, neither military nor intelligence, purely diplomatic minds meant to accompany words, not weapons. The Galactic Council sat arranged in semicircles, tiered and indifferent. Dominant voices like the Creole Dominion and the Varnak Syndicate lounged in their ornate seats, their expressions unreadable behind polished bone masks and shimmering ocular screens. Their disdain wasn't hidden. The humans had no real power by galactic standards, no fleets that spanned quadrants, no teleportation grids, no planet-cracking weapons. They had only one thing: persistence. And that annoyed the old powers more than war ever had. When Earth's envoy stepped into the central speaking ring, the silence was not respectful, it was mocking. Not a single species activated their translator implants. They watched, already dismissing his speech before it began. But the humans spoke anyway. Not with desperation, not with supplication, but with clarity and control. He outlined Earth's stance: non-aggression, trade interest, cultural diplomacy. He acknowledged humanity's short tenure among the stars, but asserted their right to sit at the table as equals. His voice was calm, unwavering. His words reached halfway when a signal flickered. A barely visible gesture from the Creole general, 2 fingers tilted downward, a custom in their ranks for a kill order. No announcement. No warning. A pulse round ripped through the envoy's torso, melting fabric, muscle, and bone in a blink. The sound came after, a metallic crackle that echoed once before fading into stunned stillness. The aide stood frozen, lips parted in disbelief. The smell of scorched protein drifted upward. The body slumped without ceremony. There was no shield activated, no defensive counterstrike, nothing. The aides didn't move. They knew better. Earth trained its diplomats to expect the worst, to remain statues in crisis. The Creole general lowered his hand slowly, as if the shot had been an insect sweat. The Varnak delegate chuckled, a deep vibration through its twin throats. A few scattered murmurs buzzed in alien dialects. Most remained silent, not out of fear, but out of agreement. No one condemned the act. No security protocols triggered. The council chair, a neutral AI construct forged from dozens of extinct languages, simply reset the agenda. The meeting continued. Earth's representatives were quietly escorted out. The aides never looked up. They didn't scream or demand justice. They simply walked, leaving their fallen behind. Cameras didn't follow. The body was removed in silence, incinerated as biological waste within the hour. The meeting concluded with a vote on asteroid mining tariffs. The footage never made it to public feeds. Galactic press received heavily edited summaries, sanitized language, phrases like incident, fatal interruption, and diplomatic misfire. But the raw footage existed. Buried in encrypted feeds, bouncing between silent satellites, it reached Earth's command archives within minutes. The shot, the laughter, the indifference, everything. There was no outcry on Earth. No military parades. No emotional broadcasts. Just quiet. The kind of quiet that only comes when rage simmers so deep it no longer has use for words. The news was not shared with the public. No flags lowered. No mourning declared. Earth's diplomats stationed on foreign outposts remained professional. Not one demanded vengeance. Not one shed a visible tear. But in the upper levels of a secure installation beneath the Antarctic crust, a file was opened. Its contents were brief. Time code. Location. Facial markers. Projectile trajectory. 3 images. No name. No signature. The file was closed after 60 seconds. A single operative received an unscheduled task directive. He did not confirm. He did not ask. He packed light. Across the galaxy, the Council forgot the incident within days. Earth hadn't retaliated. That meant weakness. Predictability. Submission. A race with limits. And in the calculus of empire, species with limits were always expected to stay in line. The generals felt secure. They spoke freely, mocked freely, ruled freely. They believed they had reminded Earth of its place. But Earth wasn't grieving. It was calculating. And in that silence, something far worse than vengeance had begun to move. The command didn't come through any official channel. No press conference, no military deployment, no fleet mobilization. It arrived as a cold data packet embedded in an unrelated logistics transmission. One string of encrypted code buried deep triggered a sequence that hadn't been touched in over a decade. An unlisted installation in orbit around Neptune stirred. A section of its AI core spun up, bypassing all standard protocols. Its purpose had always been singular: activation of Contingency Directive 13. No negotiation. No committee. One name surfaced: the Rifleman. No files existed under that title in any known Earth database. Not military. Not intelligence. Not corporate black sites. Even Earth's allies, who watched Earth obsessively since its admission into the galactic community, found nothing. There were rumors, fragments of testimony, but no confirmation. Some believed the Rifleman was myth. Others whispered he had only ever been deployed once, and that the result had never been made public. But to Earth's core command, he wasn't a legend. He was a solution. One that operated outside recognition, outside treaties, beyond even Earth's own laws. He awoke in silence, alone in a stasis pod with no windows, no clocks. He read the directive once. He needed nothing more. Within an hour, he was en route, not aboard a cruiser or strike craft, but in a single-pilot stealth vessel designed to erase its own emissions. Its destination was precise: the Galactic Council Hall. The same chamber where Earth's envoy had been killed. The plan wasn't a strike. It was an insertion. One man. One rifle. One moment. While the galaxy moved on, Earth submitted a formal request to speak once more at the Council. The message was polite. There was no mention of the endless death. No protest. No demand. The Council reviewed it, amused. Creel and Varnock representatives scoffed at the idea that humans still sought dialogue. For them, it was a victory. Humans had shown restraint. To them, this was a sign of weakness. They approved the request. The day arrived without ceremony. Delegations gathered again in the chamber. Alien dignitaries resumed their posturing, expecting apologies or meek resolutions. Earth's side of the chamber appeared empty. No seats filled. No translator beacons activated. The timer for Earth's turn ticked forward. No one arrived. Some began laughing openly. The idea of humans begging for civility after a public humiliation was pathetic to them. But then a figure appeared at the far end of the hall. He did not walk with haste. He did not wear formal robes. He moved with the kind of calm that had no room for tension. Alone. Unarmed by visible standards. No entourage. No security detail. In his hands, a rectangular object wrapped in thermal cloth. He did not acknowledge the others. He didn't look up. His face was unreadable, not stoic, not angry, simply without unnecessary expression. The council moderators requested he identify himself. He said nothing. No translator lit up. He reached the center of the floor. The object in his hands was lowered gently. He knelt beside it and began unwrapping the cloth. Layers came away with deliberate control. The final fold revealed a weapon the council had never seen before. Not a pulse rifle. Not a plasma emitter. This was kinetic. Metal. Analog in the worst possible way. It was long black, built for stability in zero gravity, modified for shield bypass. Illegal in every quadrant. Gasps erupted. Guards hesitated, unsure if this was a statement or an attack. The rifleman ignored them. He loaded a single cartridge. No panic yet, only confusion. The weapon didn't hum or glow. It whispered. Smooth components aligned with mechanical precision. He didn't activate a targeting system. He didn't use a scope. His hands adjusted by feel alone. He lifted the barrel and aligned it toward the upper tier where the alien generals sat. Some delegates shouted. Others rose. Commands were issued. Security barriers began powering up, but it was already too late. The rifleman's breathing slowed. Muscles relaxed, not tensed. His finger found the trigger. Earth had made no declaration of war. The Council had heard no ultimatum. No flag was raised. No anthem played. But justice had already left Earth's orbit. The first to speak was the Varnak general. Seated high above the floor, he addressed the Council with casual arrogance, mocking Earth's prior attempt at diplomacy. He referenced the ambassador's final words, twisting them into insults. His voice, translated through vocal converters, echoed with theatrical contempt. The rifleman didn't blink. His posture didn't shift. His breath remained steady. His rifle already knew the target. One shot. That was all it took. The kinetic round punched through the general's cranial plates and vaporized through the back of his seat. The chamber froze. Silence fell like gravity. The alien's body collapsed in on itself, twitching once, then going limp. Screams followed a second later, delayed by disbelief. Guards scrambled for cover. Delegates shouted for lockdown procedures. But the rifleman had already shifted. No wasted movement. No hesitation. The second shot came before the alarm even activated. The Creole general, halfway into a shout, dropped where he stood. His upper spine was severed. He didn't even fall, he just stopped functioning. A moment before, he had been the most feared military tactician in 3 sectors. Now he was a lifeless mass slumped against the diplomatic console. His personal guard, slowed to react, only drew weapons as the riflemen disappeared from their targeting reticles. Panic took full control. Diplomatic shields were too late. The riflemen had anticipated their activation cycles. He'd studied the energy fluctuations. He knew where the blind spots would form. A third shot found another target, a minor council leader allied with the Creole, known for inciting violence under the veil of policy. The round hit center mass, cracking through layered armor and detonating internally. His torso collapsed inward. The rifleman never spoke. Never adjusted his path. He did not run. He did not seek cover. The council's architecture, meant for elegance and visibility, now worked against its design. Nowhere was safe. Delegates stampeded toward exits. Security systems began to override one another, confused by conflicting authority inputs. The room was chaos, except for him. He moved with calm intent, disengaging the rifle's auxiliary module, returning it to compact form. He didn't look back. He didn't need to. The message had been sent, louder than any transmission. He walked toward the edge of the chamber, vanishing through an auxiliary corridor, as if rehearsed. By the time elite security arrived, there was no sign of him. Scans found no traceable heat, no DNA, no electromagnetic trails. His exit path had been scrubbed before he even fired the first shot. Across the galaxy, broadcasts were hijacked. The footage, once private, became public. A dozen camera feeds from the chamber were leaked to every major communication stream. No narrator. No edits. Just raw, unfiltered reality. Billions watched in real time as galactic titans fell to a lone human whose face never even registered emotion. Media outlets attempted spin. Some called it a rogue act. Others labeled it an internal council failure. But none could explain how Earth had done it without armies, without fleets, without threats. The image of the rifleman standing in the council chamber, calm and silent, with bodies behind him and a smoking barrel in hand, burned itself into collective memory. The council remained offline for hours. Emergency protocols triggered across multiple systems. Diplomatic meetings across neutral zones were cancelled indefinitely. Trust between factions dissolved as blame was shuffled. No one could guarantee their own safety anymore, not after one human, unaided, executed 3 high-ranking officials in the most secure building in the galaxy. Earth remained silent. No statement. No claim. No denial. The Rifleman was never named, never acknowledged. He vanished as cleanly as he had arrived. But the void he left behind reshaped perception. Humanity no longer needed alliances or declarations. One action, executed with precision and restraint, had accomplished what entire wars couldn't. Where fear once lived in theory, it now had a face. Or rather, the absence of one. In the hours that followed, silence engulfed the stars. Messages ceased. Trade routes halted. Council beacons flickered offline. The core empires, those long untouched by real fear, found themselves paralyzed. The assassination wasn't dismissed as terrorism. It couldn't be. The Rifleman hadn't made demands, hadn't spoken a word, hadn't left behind ideology. He executed judgment without warning, then disappeared, not into hiding, but into legend. The Varnock Syndicate declared a system-wide lockdown. Civilian movement was suspended. Their media spun internal narratives blaming dissident factions. Behind closed doors, however, war councils met in panic. If Earth could eliminate generals within the heart of the most secure chamber in the galaxy, then no system was untouchable. Their own high command issued encrypted directives to scramble their command structure, fearing that fixed hierarchies now marked them as targets. The Creole Dominion responded with noise, military drills, visible deployments, loud statements of defiance. But beneath the bluster, paranoia spread. Officers rotated through underground bunkers. The Dominion's planetary shields were tested twice a day. They began retrofitting capital ships with counter-sniper measures, unsure of how to defend against a weapon that had never triggered proximity alarms. Entire ministries quietly funded human behavioral analysis programs, desperate to predict if a second strike would come, and from where. Across neutral zones, private security firms voided their contracts with human clients, citing liability risks. Mercenary groups refused missions involving Earth's interests. No amount of payment outweighed the possibility of being marked. Even black market networks purged human-related data from their archives. No one wanted to be seen facilitating a retaliation. The Galactic Council reconvened virtually, every delegate appearing through secure holograms. No physical attendance. No votes passed. The meeting was symbolic, an attempt to show resilience. It failed. For the first time in recorded records, the entire assembly agreed on a single shared concern: deterrence. Not military, not diplomatic, but psychological. How had humanity done it? Who else might follow their method? Could it be stopped if repeated? Speculation flourished, but answers didn't. No known agency claimed responsibility. No intelligence body on Earth accepted credit. Publicly, the incident was unacknowledged. Earth maintained its scheduled diplomatic appointments. Their embassies remained open. They requested no changes in treaties, demanded no reparations. The complete lack of political reaction disturbed observers more than any formal threat ever could. Alien societies began reshaping themselves. Universities introduced new fields in xenopsychology focusing solely on human retaliation dynamics. Training academies revised their crisis protocols, adding entire modules on untraceable single-actor threats. Species once culturally dominant found themselves mirroring human behavioral models, mimicking their stillness, their decision-making pace, their silence before action. Among common citizens, the incident spread as folklore. Stories mutated rapidly. In one version, the Rifleman was a machine. In another, a relic from a lost Earth experiment. Others claimed there was no Rifleman at all, just a warning system that activated itself. Conspiracies grew, but all of them circled the same core truth: Earth had drawn a red line in silence, and enforced it without warning. Political alliances shifted subtly. Minor species who once feared being overlooked by the greater powers now turned to Earth for mediation. Not because of shared ideology, but because of reliability. Earth had shown it didn't need consensus. It simply acted. without endless debate, without posturing. Trust in the traditional power blocks eroded. The cost of betrayal had changed. Not in armies lost, but in individuals erased without ceremony. For the first time, humans were not seen as newcomers. They were treated as a variable, unpredictable, unmanageable, and absolute in their execution. Galaxies didn't fear their technology. They feared the discipline behind it. The Rifleman wasn't viewed as a hero or a villain. He was seen as proof. Proof that Earth didn't bluff. Proof that in a room full of power, one man could enter, and everything could change. No official documents were amended. No charters revised. Yet the structure of galactic diplomacy had changed permanently. Earth never issued a declaration. The Rifleman was never named, ranked, or claimed. But from that day forward, every interstellar negotiation involved a single, unspoken adjustment. Respect for humans was now compulsory. Not enforced through dominance or imperial projection, but by precedent carved into the collective memory of every species with eyes and data feeds. Military doctrines across systems adapted swiftly. Entire volumes were rewritten to account for asymmetric retaliation. Simulations were redesigned to include lone actor deterrence models. High-value alien personnel began avoiding fixed schedules, fearing predictable appearances could become fatal. When planetary governors convened, they added a new layer of protocol: proximity alerts calibrated to detect human biosignatures, even though no system had successfully registered one during the Council incident. The Rifleman became more than an operative, he became calibration. Security teams adjusted timing based on what they assumed his efficiency rate might be. Political analysts referenced him as a measuring stick for silence-to-action ratios. Academic conferences dissected the absence of Earth's political reaction, struggling to interpret the calculus behind an action after such a decisive move. Theories emerged suggesting Earth had anticipated the original assassination, that the Rifleman had been staged in orbit before the envoy ever arrived. No evidence confirmed this. No one from Earth corrected it. Newer civilizations, watching from the fringes, began adopting human methods. Not weaponry, but mentality. Disciplined silence. Strategic minimalism. Tactical unpredictability. Where once younger species had idolized the Creel's overwhelming force or the Varnak's intimidation tactics, now they studied Earth's restraint. They learned that when diplomacy fails, the answer doesn't have to be war. It can be one act. Done once. Done right. The Council, though intact, never recovered its old posture. Its physical sessions became rare. Delegates requested remote participation, citing security or cultural customs. No one wanted to be in the same room with Earth again, not out of hatred, but uncertainty. It wasn't fear of death. It was fear of not knowing the terms. Humans had shown no pattern. No escalation. No negotiation curve. Just precise retribution. Followed by nothing. Trade relations with Earth flourished. Not because Earth demanded it, but because others offered. Deals became more favorable. Access was granted faster. Allies emerged not out of ideology but survival instinct. Earth's influence expanded without campaigns, without occupation. Every step forward came because others stepped back. Cultural shifts appeared even in subtle places. In entertainment feeds, stories of lone warriors avenging silenced voices surged in popularity. Even among species with no concept of vengeance, children began reenacting tales of the quiet human who walked into power and left as legend. Artistic murals across different systems captured the moment, not with gore or violence, but with the image of one man, calm amid chaos, holding a tool that changed the room more than any army ever had. The Rifleman was never seen again. There were no sightings, no leaks, no unofficial claims. Earth never referenced him. Yet his absence remained as present as his arrival. In every council chamber afterward, a small section of seating remained deliberately unfilled, left untouched by dust or protocol. It wasn't labeled, wasn't officially reserved. But everyone knew what it symbolized. Humanity didn't ascend by conquest. It didn't command obedience through threat. It imposed a new order by proving it could act with absolute precision and then vanish without need for validation. No monuments were built. No rewards issued. The Rifleman left no trace, yet every star system carried the impression of his steps. Peace endured not through fear, but through understanding. The understanding that among a galaxy full of voices screaming for dominance, Earth spoke once. Quietly. And made itself heard forever.